Another week, another massive game in the Pac-12. Number 18 Utah and their stingy defense will travel to take on number 5 Washington and one of the best offenses in the country. What is going to happen in Seattle? Will the Utes pull off the massive upset, or will Washington remain undefeated as they get closer and closer to a college football playoff berth? That's the question we're going to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, where we are on a 62-29 run against the spread. That is over 68%, and no one else is going to give you those type of picks. No one else is going to give you it for as low of a price as we're offering, and no one else is going to give you that price for a full year-long subscription. That is 365 days. So come win big with us, guaranteed winning, some of the best customer service in the country, one of the best deals in the entire country. We want you to become a part of our GE Nation. Go sign up. It's never too late to sign up. And again, start winning with us today here at the Gridiron Expert. So let's take a look at this game, guys. Utah and Washington. We have seen these two teams meet just a few years ago in the Pac-12 championship game. And ironically, in that one, it was a low-scoring affair, like 10-3. This year, don't expect it to be as low scoring, and unfortunately this year, the stakes not nearly as high. Utah practically eliminated from Pac-12 title contention. It feels like we're on a collision course to see Washington and Oregon square off again here in just a few weeks, but the Utes have an opportunity to keep those slim hopes of a Pac-12 title alive. They have the opportunity to play massive spoiler for Washington, who has not just Pac-12 title aspirations, but college football playoff aspirations. Take a look at the offense here. We'll start with Utah, the visiting team. Look, put it bluntly, it's not good. The Utes offense isn't good. But the Washington defense may make it look that way, and we'll get to that in a second. You know, you look at the Utes, guys, it's amazing they've been as competitive as they've been without Cam Rising. It's amazing they've been as competitive as they've been with the offensive struggles they've endured, right? 95th overall in total offense, averaging just 352 yards per game. They're 121st in the country in passing offense, averaging just 159 passing yards per game. And Bryson Barnes hasn't been bad, right? 930 yards, 8 touchdowns, half of those coming last week against Arizona State. It's the run game. It's the run game and the defense that Utah has relied on all year long. They play just a different style of football. It's smash-mouth football. We're going to bully you up front at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. We're going to run it down your throat, and we're going to threaten you and dare you to stop it. And most of the time, teams can't. The run game for Utah is averaging over 192 yards per game, led by Jaquindon Jackson, 598 yards on the year. But to beat a team like Washington that has such an electric offense, they're going to need one of the better offensive performances they've had all year long. The defense can only do so much. The Utah offense, to win this game, is going to have to match the Huskies, and they're probably going to have some long, methodical drives that result in touchdowns. Dominate the time of possession in this game if you're Utah, and keep one of the Heisman frontrunners and Michael Penix off the field. Michael Penix, as we mentioned, is a Heisman frontrunner. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he's leading the top passing attack in the country that's averaging over 383 passing yards per game. He alone has thrown for over 3,200 yards and 26 touchdowns, and has one of the best wide receiver duos in the nation in Rome Odunze, that has over 989 yards, and Jalen Polk, who has 888 yards, both of which will be 1,000-yard receivers by season's end. The run game really doesn't do much for Washington, right? They're 100th in the country, kind of a non-factor. Sometimes they get going, sometimes they don't. But this is a team in Washington that wants to play fast, they want to be explosive, and they want to throw it. They want to air it out. And they're going to do that on Saturday. 509 yards per game, over 41 points per game, one of the best offenses in the country. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Michael Penix is the key to everything, and not just in this game, but this year alone, whether Washington finds a way to the college football playoff or falls just short. The defense, Utah, it's elite. We said that. We said the Utes are winning games behind the strength of their ground game, time of possession, and defense. Defense. They are 6th in the country versus the run, allowing just 81.2 point rushing yards per game, and they're only giving up 201 passing yards per game. The question is, can they slow down this type of offense? Look, it's one thing to dominate Arizona State last week the way they did, right? It's one thing to beat up on some weaker opponents throughout the year the way that Utah has. But against some of the more quality quarterbacks and some of the more quality opponents they've played, the defense hasn't been all that great. They allowed 248 passing yards to Oregon. 142 rushing yards as well to the Ducks in like a 35-6 home loss to them just a few weeks ago. They allowed 256 passing yards and 145 rushing yards to USC. They allowed 227 passing yards and 131 rushing yards to Oregon State. Two of those three teams that we just mentioned, Utah lost to. They lost to Oregon. They lost to Oregon State. They barely survived USC in the Coliseum. So you look at the defense and go, yeah, it's pretty good. And maybe the numbers are skewed a little bit. I'm not saying the defense is bad. Maybe the numbers are skewed a little bit. The numbers look really good when you're beating up on the weaker, lower-level Pac-12 teams, those non-conference teams. But when you've played teams that are good, like Oregon, like Oregon State, I would even put USC in that category for it being on the road and still facing an elite offense. And Caleb Williams, the defense hasn't looked all that great. Has allowed over 130 rushing yards in each of those three games. Everywhere else, no one's getting anything. 81.2 rushing yards per game is the average this year, but yet in 3 games, they've allowed over 130 rushing yards. So this could be a game where Washington chooses to be a little bit more balanced. This could be a game where if you're Kalen DeBoer, if you're the Huskies, you go, look, we know we want to air it out with Michael Penix. We know we want to throw, but look, if the opportunity's there, run. Take advantage of that opportunity. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But also don't miss a golden opportunity to take some weight off your quarterback's shoulders or maybe run enough and generate enough success there to where you're not so one-dimensional and the run eventually sets up the pass. Utah certainly has their hands full, and they have not fared entirely well against more of the better opponents within the conference. Washington, on the other hand, their key in this game if they want to win it, stop the run. Plain and simple. Stop the run and don't allow Utah to dominate time of possession. That means get off the field. When you are facing a third down of any sort, get off the field. Because you've got this running clock rule going on now. So if you allow Utah to go on this like 7-8 minute long drive and actually score a touchdown off of that, your possessions, regardless of how good your offense is, your possessions are going to be limited. And that's what I'm doing if I'm Kyle Whittingham, right? I understand my offense can't hang with Washington in the shootout. I know that. But if I can take long drives and get in the end zone and I can give Washington just a limited number of possessions throughout the game, that means they're going to have to convert and take advantage of those limited possessions. We might find a way to win this thing. So if you're Washington's defense, stop the run, force Bryson Barnes and this pitiful passing attack to win the game through the air. A pitiful passing attack that has nowhere near the playmakers that Washington does. Force them to win it through the air and get off the field by forcing Utah on some third and long situations and stopping them on those. So you cannot allow them to convert on those plays. This is a Washington defense that isn't all that great. They've given up over 400 yards per game on the year, over 143 rushing yards per game, and over 270 passing yards per game. But I'm not concerned about Bryson Barnes walking into Seattle and just torching this Washington secondary. I don't really think that's going to happen, regardless of how bad the secondary's been. I'm more concerned about Jaquindon Jackson and Bryson Barnes' limited dual threat ability having a big day. And if you're Kalen DeBoer and you're Washington, you've got to shut that down. So what's going to happen, guys? A lot to unpack there, right? I mean, that was a lot. This is regardless, this is still a top 20 matchup. This is still a college football Saturday. Anything can happen on any given Saturday. Nothing is for granted. And if you look at Washington, guys, this is a team that lately has just been surviving. They're undefeated. They're good. They're top 5. They're a playoff contender. But they survived Oregon. They survived Arizona State. They survived Stanford. They survived USC, winning that game by 10 in an absolute shootout. The defense, not very good. 33 points to Oregon, like 42 to USC. I mean, it's not that great. Utah, though, does not have the offense like Oregon does. They do not have the offense like USC stuff, and they just don't. They just don't. And so while Washington has been surviving, I do think that they're going to live to see another day. They're going to survive another week more. They will beat Utah in Seattle on Saturday. And if this game had been in Salt Lake City, maybe I'd be a little bit more worried. Maybe I'd be a little bit more cautious. But after what Oregon did, maybe not so much. Washington owns the offensive advantage significantly. They own the home field advantage significantly. Seattle will be rocking for this game. And while they don't own the defensive advantage, the Utah defense can only do so much, as evidenced by their performance against USC, Oregon, Oregon State. It can only do so much when your offense can't deliver for you. The Huskies win this game at home, remain undefeated, but enter a major trap game next weekend in Corvallis as they take on Oregon State. Of course, we'll have analysis and our prediction for that game right here on the Gridiron Expert next week. So once again, guys, as always, I want to thank you so much for checking us out here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks. where we are 62-29 against the spread, or at least on a run right now, 62-29 run. That's over 68%. We want you to take advantage of those picks. We want you to start winning big with us today with one of the lowest prices in the country and a full year-long subscription. Go check it out. The link down in the description below. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.